Hello, 3S. So this is our last week of Stig in the Dump because we are very close to the end now. And after half term, we will be starting our next novel. So here we go. Then the bone scraper, in his excitement, joined the singer in a little shuffle dance, and the children could see the fourth member of the band. On the ground was a large hollow animal skull with great curving horns. Tied between the horns were 3 or 4 lengths of string or gut, and a small dark figure was squatting by this simple harp, plucking at the strings. Blung, blong, blong, blung, and taking very little notice of anyone else. In fact, the song came to an end, the drummer gave the final thump to his log, the bone scraper rattled to a stop, but the little harpist went on with his 3 notes as if he were the only musician in the world. Some of the crowd began to laugh and jeer at him as he played away. But it wasn't until someone threw a meat bone, catching him on the head with a clunk, that the children could hear in the tree, that the player looked up as if surprised to see that he was not alone. Barney nearly fell off his branch. "It's Stig!" he almost shouted. "Barney," Lou hissed, "you're going to give us away." "But it is Stig," said Barney excitedly. "I said he was clever. He'd probably invented that thing he was playing music on. Where's he going now?" For the little figure Barney said was Stig was rather sulkily walking away from the campfire towards the tree. "He's coming this way," whispered Lou. "Barney, you're not to give us away." "Why not? He's my friend." "What about all the others? Who are they? You never said about them." "Well, I don't know who they are. I've never seen them before." "Well, we'd better be careful then, Barney." "Oh, all right." But what gave them away was Dina, tied up at the bottom of the tree. She had been quiet up to now, but when she had heard Stig walking towards the wood, she began to growl and then to give short, sharp barks. On the edge of the bushes, Stig at once froze into stillness. Dina went on barking, and some of the wild children playing on the outside of the crowd heard her too. The bolder ones ran to the edge of the wood. The little ones ran to their parents by the fire. Soon a number of armed elders, snatching up spears and clubs, were making for the woods at the sound of Dina's bark. Lou and Barney clung to their high branch like squirrels not daring to move. They could see the strange people on the edge of the wood, wondering at the unusual sound of a spaniel's bark. Then at last plucking up courage to advance into the darkness of the bushes and the beech forest, holding their weapons at the ready. Dina's barking became more and more frantic as she heard the rustling of bodies through the bushes all around and the crackling and snapping of footsteps. Under cover of the noise, Barney whispered, "Lou, we've got to escape." "How can we?" breathed Lou. "Look where that bough goes." Barney pointed into the moonlight. The limb they were on stuck out into nothingness, but one of its branches went across to another long limb, and this one stretched out and rubbed shoulders with another great beech tree. If they climbed over into the other tree, Barney thought they could definitely escape. "We can go across there," he whispered. "Come on, while they're making all this noise." Lou's face seemed to go pale. "Oh, Barney, we can't. And they'll find Dina anyhow." "I'm going to try. Then perhaps we can rescue her." He inched himself backwards along the limb that they were sitting on until he reached the branch that grew crosswise. When he came to it, he wondered what to do. It was too thin to sit astride, so he decided to hang underneath it like a sloth by his hands and his legs. Upside down like this, he crawled through the empty air between the 2 big limbs. By bending his head right back, he had an upside-down view of the floor of the forest, patched with moonlight, and right beneath him was a wild hunter, the tip of his spear pointing skywards, but looking at the ground. Barney hung without moving until the man had passed on, then moved and quickly, as quietly as he could, to where the branch passed over the other great limb. Here he got himself right up on the bough again. His heart was thumping, and his legs felt quivery, but at least he was safe for a little while. But now he had to go outward to where the 2 trees shook hands high in the air. He worked his way forwards, and as he went, the boughs became thinner and swayed more. At last he was there where the trees met, where the branches crossed their movement in the wind, and they had rubbed a great big scar, and nothing he could do would stop a loud creak from coming from this rubbing place every time he moved. "I must get over onto the other tree," he thought. Quickly as he dared, turned around so as to go backwards down on the new branch. He let go, and the branch just came up, and crack! It was a dead branch. Barney fell through nothing, then struck a flat, leafy branch below. He slid outwards from this onto a lower one, crashed through, and fell the last few feet onto the soft forest floor. For a moment, Barney's brain bounced back to the first time he had fallen down the chalk cliff, and the time he'd met Stig. Then he opened his eyes and he saw, not the face of the cliff with daylight at the top, but the pattern of beech boughs through which the full moon looked down at him. Then there was a rustle of branches, and he could see Lou clambering down towards him. She fell off the last bough and ran to where he was lying. "Barney," she was saying. "Are you all right, Barney?" He sat up. "Of course I'm all right," he said. "Bit scratched, that's all. Why didn't you stay up there if you didn't want to get caught?" "I thought you were hurt, or I would have," said Lou, looking around anxiously. Shadowy figures were moving towards them through the wood. One of them, with tousled hair and a skin skirt, flint spear, came into the moonlight patch. Lou drew away from it, but Barney knew who it was. "Hello, Stig," he said. "What are you doing here?" Stig's teeth flashed in the moonlight, and then he looked curiously at Lou. This is only my sister, Stig," said Barney. "Is this really Stig?" whispered Lou. "Yes, of course," said Barney. "My friend Stig." "Oh," said Lou. Good evening, Mr. Stig." Stig merely grinned again in a friendly way and said nothing. "Doesn't he speak English?" whispered Lou. "No," replied Barney. "Well, what does he speak then? Latin or French?" "I don't know," said Barney. "You could try 'em." Lou didn't seem to be able to remember anything suitable to say to a savage spearman in a moonlit wood, so she said nothing. Meanwhile, other figures had appeared from the shadows and were standing round in a circle watching them. Stig made a few strange sounds and they lowered their weapons. Then an argument broke out with a lot of waving of arms towards the camp and pointing at fingers. Finally, Stig smiled at them, held out his 2 hands with them, and made ushering movements. "I think we're invited to the party," said Barney. They moved off through the wood in silence that was broken by a barking and whining, and there in the dark was Dina, jumping around on the end of her string. Lou ran up to her. "Poor Dina," she said. "Did we leave you in the dark?" "It's all right, Dina. It's only Barney's friend Stig and the other nice gentleman." Dina didn't seem at all too sure about the other nice gentleman, and stood there growling in her throat until Stig came up and said something, and she actually licked his hand. "That's funny," Lou whispered. "Dina seems to know Stig." "Well, why not? Probably meets him when she goes rabbiting," said Barney. "You know, in the old days. I mean, when things are usual." They were on a forest track now, so narrow that they had to go in single file and not talk. But soon they came out from the edge of the wood onto the bare top of the hill, and now the women and bigger children who had not dared to go into the dark wood ran up to stare at them. "I don't suppose they've ever seen anything like us," Lou whispered. Barney took a look at Lou in the bright moonlight. "Well, I don't know," he said. "You can't see yourself, Lou. You don't look much different from them except your hair's bare." Lou felt her tangled hair and looked at her ripped shorts, then looked at Barney with his legs all smeared with green from the bark of the trees. "You don't look very different yourself either," she said. Right, that's it for today, 3S. I will see you again tomorrow.